Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be taking a first look here at this Week 14 NFL DraftKings main slate. Like I always do, I'm going to go position by position, talking about the plays that are sticking out to me here early in the week, and then we'll wrap up the video by putting together a first look cash lineup and a first look tournament lineup. With that being said, let's dive right into this. And we're going to kick things off here at the quarterback position. Now some big names at the top right away. We got Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and CJ Stroud on this slate, but it's really the 6K range and even the upper 5K range that's sticking out to me here early on in the week. For starters, I like Justin Fields here at home against the Detroit Lions. He's now had 3 straight games where he's gone over 100 rushing yards against this Lions defense, and you can just see he's been running the ball at a very high rate in general here as of late, so I do like him at that price of $6,800. Whether it be for cash games or tournaments, I think he's going to be in play for both. I also think that Brock Purdy is in play here again at $6,500. There's no reason he shouldn't be priced in the 7K range at this point, in my opinion. Been solid all year long. 23 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, and I do like that matchup there against Seattle. I realize he wasn't great against Seattle here just a couple of games ago, but outside of that, if you look at his game log, he's been pretty damn good considering the price. And then the other quarterback that stuck out to me here was Russell Wilson on the road against the Los Angeles Chargers. I understand the narrative here over the last 2 years is don't play Russ in this Broncos offense, but honestly, they've really come together here as of late. We're shooting for what? 18 DraftKings points at this price in our cash lineup for 3x value. He's basically hitting that here week in and week out, especially over his last 5 games. That Chargers defense has not been good against the pass either. I would prefer to get to Purdy or Fields, but if I need that cash savings, Russ looks pretty good there at $5,800. Now, moving over here to the running backs, from a cash game perspective, if I can play Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara in the same lineup this week, I by all means want to do that. Love this matchup here for CMC, and that's really every week, right? We love CMC week in and week out, but he beat up on this Seattle defense here just a couple of games ago. He's pretty much matchup proof, we know that, but Seattle not good against the run. And speaking of defenses that are not good against the run, Carolina has been one of the worst defenses stopping running backs this year, and AK just has so much involvement in this offense, whether it be the running game or passing game. He's consistently getting involved. So again, if I can jam both those guys in my cash lineup this week, I think I want to go that route. But if I do need some price savings here, there were 2 running backs that stuck out to me in the 6K range, 2 running backs that stuck out to me in the 5K range. Don't love the 5K range, but we'll talk about it. For starters here, on the 6K side of things here, I do like Joe Mixon as well as Zach Moss. And Zach Moss there at $5,900. But Mixon, one of those guys who's just steadily involved in this offense, whether it be the running game or the passing game. He has been someone who's on the field pretty consistently, and especially with Browning at quarterback now, you could see there's 7 targets last week. He wasn't afraid to dump it off to Mixon. That's really what I'm hoping for here in this matchup against Indianapolis. But on the other side of that game, I certainly don't mind Zach Moss either. Jonathan Taylor is not expected to play here this week, and we know that Moss has been pretty damn good when Taylor is out of the lineup. Sure, he wasn't great last week, but the volume was there with 19 rush attempts, had 3 targets as well. Going back to earlier in the season when he was playing really well, we're hoping he can get back to that form, but considering the price and the matchup again, I definitely think he's going to be in play. And then again, got 2 running backs here in the 5K range that kind of caught my attention. Not in love with it by any means, but Alexander Mattison here, I do like the matchup against the Raiders defense. Ty Chandler could be heavily involved here. It's kind of hard to say coming off of the bye for Minnesota, but it has been Mattison as the lead back in this offense. With JJ back here this week, should open some things up for the running game, so I don't mind him at $5,500. And then if Kenneth Walker misses this week, I think we'll be able to consider Charbonnet here. The rushing attempts have definitely been there with Walker out. Don't necessarily love the matchup, but when it comes to our cash lineup, we're looking for volume, and he's been able to provide that. Now, folks, before we dive into the wide receivers here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. We're trying to get Slydog Sports here to 4,000 subs by the end of 2023, and I know the football season's coming to a close here, got about 2 months left, but I'm going to have content coming out for you guys to wrap up this football season. So again, if you haven't subbed yet here today and you can do so, I would really appreciate that. Now, diving into the wide receivers here, again, we got some big names right at the top. Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Justin Jefferson, but I think Amon Amon-Ra St. Brown is my favorite of those four here initially. This guy's a volume monster. Sure, he only saw 6 targets last week, but that's the lowest he's seen all year long. Outside of that, he's pretty much touching double-digit targets every single game, and I do like this matchup here against the Chicago Bears. Now, if I'm spending up for Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara in my cash lineup this week, I'm going to need to find some price savings elsewhere. I do got some value plays that I'm going to highlight here in the lower 4K range once we get there. Talking about the 7K range here, I certainly don't mind it. 6K range, kind of the same thing. I do like Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel in this matchup against that Seattle defense. And honestly, what I'll probably do at the end of this video is build a tournament lineup around the 49ers and find a run back on the Seattle side, whether it's DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, or Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's my preferred route considering his price. We'll touch on him in just a minute, but I do like that game in general. Scrolling down here just a little bit more, I do like DJ Moore here this week. Probably more on the tournament side of things, but honestly, I don't even mind him in cash either. Definitely some shootout potential in this game here, and I do like Justin Fields. Scrolling down a little bit from that, the 5K range is certainly okay. The one guy I do want to highlight here is Rashee Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He is becoming the wide receiver 1 in this offense. Travis Kelce's the number 1 pass catcher, but he obviously plays tight end. Back-to-back games here, though, where he's seen some really nice volume, 9 and 10 targets. That's definitely cash viable if he keeps that volume up, especially considering the price there at $5,400. But now dipping into the 4K range here and even the upper 3K range, let's highlight some of the value that was sticking out to me. Elijah Moore, it's hard to ignore the volume that he's seen here, especially with Joe Flacco last week. 12 targets. The receptions just aren't really reciprocating the targets, so I don't know if I love it, but $4,500, 12 plus DraftKings points here in 3 of his last 4 games. He's definitely in my player pool here early on in the week. Jackson Smith and Jigba do like him at that price of $4,100. Really, ever since the Seattle bye, he's just been a good player, heavily involved in this offense. Volume has been there as well, especially considering the price at $4,100. And then at $3,700 here, I like Zay Jones. Don't love the matchup there against Cleveland, but with Christian Kirk on the shelf here now with that groin injury, Zay Jones is going to be the number 2 wide receiver in this offense. Yes, we got CJ Beathard more than likely this week at quarterback, so again, I don't know if I love it, but considering the price, he's someone who stuck out to me here early on in the week. Now, moving on to the tight ends here, we do got some big names here on this slate. Really, any one of these top 5 I think are tournament viable, whether it be Kelce, Laporta, Hawkinson, Kittle, or Kincaid. Those guys are good. We know this, but I don't know if I'll be able to go there in cash. Again, especially considering I'm willing to spend up for those running backs. So let's dip down here into the 4K range. I do think Cole Kmet is in play here. Been solid here as of late. Really just kind of going with Justin Fields. Justin Fields has been playing better here as of late. Cole Kmet has kind of been on the receiving end of that, $4,300, and I don't mind the matchup there against Detroit. And then scrolling down here into the 3K range, Isaiah Likely, we can probably consider him in cash considering the price, but I like him more on the tournament side of things there, and I don't mind that matchup against the Rams. We're looking to save even more money off of that. If Dalton Schultz doesn't play this week, we can go back to Jordan. I do think Tyler Conklin is in play here. Houston has not been good against tight ends all year long. The volume has been consistent. And then if we need to save money off of that, we can go down here to Hudson of the Cincinnati Bengals. I was honestly surprised to see the targets there over the last 5 games, but I'll absolutely take advantage of that at $2,800. And before we put together a first look cash lineup and a first look tournament lineup, let's wrap up the positional plays here with defense. We'll keep it short and sweet. Honestly, I wouldn't mind spending up in the 3K range here in my cash lineup this week, and for sure in my tournament lineups for the Baltimore Ravens or the Cleveland Browns. Again, got CJ Beathard there likely starting for the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. If we really need to save money, we could go with the Buffalo Bills. There's a lot of shootout potential, obviously, between them and the Chiefs, but that Chiefs offense hasn't been elite here this year, especially as of late. So again, if we really need the price savings, the Bills did stick out to me. All right, now let's put together a first look cash lineup here. Like I said, I'd love to get up to Justin Fields here this week. 100 plus rushing yards in 3 straight games against that Detroit Lions defense. Back at home here this week. Let's put him in at $6,800. And I've mentioned it several times now, if I can play CMC and Kamara in my cash lineup this week, I by all means want to do that. Getting over to the wide receivers here now, obviously I got to find some price savings. We highlighted some of that earlier, so we're going to put in JSN. And I'm also going to put in Zay Jones there at $3,700 just for now. That gives us $4,500 left. Let's put a tight end here. I'm going to go with Hudson at $2,800. And that's $5,000 left per player. So I can spend up here a little bit if I wanted to. Let's put in Rashee Rice there at $5,400. And then let's put in a defense too. If I can spend up for the Ravens this week, I by all means don't mind that at all. Or are they $3,300? So that's $6,500 left over. That is DJ Moore. I said earlier I prefer him in tournament lineups, and I by all means do, but I do think he's cash viable, and you get the correlation there with Justin Fields. And then let's put together a first look tournament lineup. Talked about that game between the 49ers and Seahawks quite a bit, so let's build a game stack around that. We'll go with Brock Purdy here, and we could stack him up with Christian McCaffrey, and then you could go with a Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. I'm going to go with Deebo here. Turn it on here over the last 2 weeks. 39 DraftKings points last week, 22.5 the week before that against Seattle. Kind of turning it on here as they make a playoff push. And then we need to run it back there with someone on the Seattle side. We could go with DK, we could go with Lockett, but I love the price savings we get here with Jackson Smith and Jigba, so I'm going to put him in there at $4,100. Now, before we go back to the running back here, I do want to get some exposure to that game between the Chiefs and Bills, do a little mini stack there, so let's put in Rashee Rice again. And I'd love to get up to Stephon Diggs, but not going to be able to afford that based off of where we're at right now. So let's put in Gabe Davis. We could even put in Kincaid there if we wanted to. Back to the running backs here. I am going to creep up into the 5K range, even low 6K range. Let's go with Joe Mixon. We're going to need to save some money here to wrap this up. Actually, I know exactly what I can do here. We can go with the Browns, and then that's $3,100 left over for a tight end. We can put in Jordan there if Schultz misses, but I'm going to put in Conklin for now because, again, Houston has been horrible against tight ends all year long. So for a first look tournament lineup, I actually don't mind that at all. Might just save it and run it in the Millie Maker here this week, but obviously it's early in the week. Make sure you stay tuned for my final cash plays video this Friday and my favorite tournament plays video this Saturday. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great week here, folks, and in the meantime, I'm out of here.